Today I'm looking at the Tacx Neo 2 direct drive interactive smart trainer. On a recent Lama Drives, Veronica, my wife, mentioned that she wanted to unbox, build and first ride the Neo 2 because she's a big fan of the Neo 1. I asked the question to the channel and the votes are in. Veronica today gets to do the unboxing and first Lama lab test of the Neo 2. Stay tuned for that. But first, an introduction to the Neo 2 and the technology behind the unit. The Neo 2 adopts all the technologies and feature sets from the Tacx Neo 1 and adds a few small refinements for a better experience. Here is the list right here that everyone has been asking for. So what's different between the Neo 1 and the Neo 2? Well, listed here, a capacitive cadence sensor. It has a proper cadence sensor in the unit itself. It detects your foot moving past the rear of the unit and knows exactly your cadence rather than guessing it from your power oscillations. It has left and right power measurement. Pedal stroke analysis is included. Increased axle compatibility. Improved faster electronics for smoother, more responsive resistance control, a more silent resistance unit, and new features to be added in the future. They do list on their website memory, or the unit has a storage capacity of some type. I'll speculate what that might be later on. The Tacx Neo 2 is a direct drive interactive smart trainer, so all the bells and whistles. You'll get erg mode for training, sim mode for simulation, level mode, and a few extra features with this unit that are specific to the Tacx Neo. Bike compatibility, standard quick release 130 and 135 with adapters supplied in the box for 142 by 12 and 148 by 12. SRAM Shimano compatible freehub, does not come with a cassette, you'll need to supply one of your own. Wireless protocols, AMP+ FEC and Bluetooth Smart with FTMS coming soon. The data transmission are speed, cadence, power and control, so that all goes into one Bluetooth channel. Good news for those using Apple TV. Power accuracy claims plus or minus 1%. Calibration not required. Nice. Grade simulation up to 25%. Max wattage 2200 watts. Downhill drive and road surface simulation unique to the Neo. So if you're on a simulated downhill gradient, the freewheel will actually spin for you. It doesn't make you go any faster in game. That relies on your watts, but it will spin over and tick just like you're riding outside. Road surface simulation. If you're on cobbles, you're on wooden planks, you're on ice or gravel, the unit can simulate those. Pretty cool and a unique feature of the Neo and now Neo 2 smart trainers. Flywheel weight and size, well, it's listed as mass inertia, which is 125 kilos, 275.6 pounds. It's a really hard one to define what that actually is. It's more about the programming side of things and there's no belts involved in this, but it's just a trainer with a lot of oomph. The noise level is really quiet. Yes, really quiet. Before everything else started to quieten down, the Neo was the go-to unit if your question was, what is the quietest trainer out there? Unit weight, 24.8 kilos, 54.7 pounds. Works with or without power, which is quite unique for a high-end smart trainer. Without the power supply in it, you won't get that direct drive downhill, so the flywheel won't spin automatically for you, and it's always best to do firmware updates with the thing plugged in. Don't try a firmware update under your own steam. Comes with a front wheel riser block and also a bonus 1-month premium Tacx software. So huge list here, lots to talk about with this trainer. Let's get stuck into it. Okay, as promised, here's my lovely assistant or wife, Veronica, doing the unbox, build and first ride of the Tacx Neo 2 smart trainer. So everything pretty much comes pre-assembled here. It's a pretty heavy unit, so a few struggles getting it out of the box, but there we go. She manages to get it done. Perfect. Feet fold down. That's really all the assembly that's required. We have the box, the unit itself. We have the front wheel riser there supplied. The Thru-Axle adapter kit supplied. Documentation, quick release, and power supplies. All pretty straightforward. A closer look at the Thru-Axle adapter kit. You get both threaded and non-threaded versions there, so that's a good addition. Without an extra purchase, there's the standard quick release that I'll be using on our bikes today. Okay, trainer in place, power adapters, sorted and thrown to the side for now, because we have to get the cassette on. One of my favorite parts right there. Okay, Veronica has no problems at all getting the cassette on. Last two cogs and the lock ring with the lock ring tool. Okay, quick release goes in. We're still on quick release bikes. And after we plug the unit in and turn it on, the next thing to do is to check for the latest firmware update. So using the Tacx utility app here, connecting to the unit, checking for updates, Actually, we'll double check that again because it said downloading, and no, we're good to go. Latest firmware on the Neo 2. You can also see some of the other features included right there. Okay, almost time to ride. Bike goes on, direct drive, so rear wheel comes off in the lowest gear. Line that rear wheel up with the 11 cog. Bike is clamped in nice and tight with the supplied skewer. Things look good. Okay, over to Zwift for the Llama lab test for Von. We shall pair to the FEC 1733 trainer. And after a few seconds, that will pop up as a Tacx trainer. So we just, the power, cadence, and controllable trainer paired there. And like magic, pop, it's now Tacx. So Tacx power source, Tacx cadence, and Tacx controllable trainer there using FEC with the ANT Plus ID. And away we go. So Von, you've just got yourself the QOM jersey after the Llama Lab test, and Eric Min, the CEO of Zwift, has just given you a ride on. That's a pretty good day.
Yes, he just passed me. So yes, I've been spotted.
Okay, well you chase down Eric Min and give him a ride on back. Your thoughts on the Tacx Neo 2 after about an hour or so of riding? You're very familiar with the Tacx Neo 1.
Yes, I am. I've done many a ride on Tacx Neos. The ride is really good. Really good. It's so good I can't tell the difference between them. They're really, really nice to ride.
Okay, so ride-wise, same feel as the Tacx Neo 1, same responsiveness, erg mode held the same?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't notice anything majorly different at all, like nothing noticeable.
I have to admit, I'm excited in the background. The data was looking really good. So that was what I'm looking forward to looking at your data, actually. So I can't wait to see that. Noise-wise, similar for the noise?
Yeah, look, in all honesty, I need to wash my chain, so the current noise level might be a bit better on your clean bike. But yeah, it's been fine. Nothing that I've noticed out of the ordinary. The clamping in erg mode felt good. I was doing some easier erg sessions, intervals, and some higher ones as well, where you had to really kind of hold it, and that's when you can really notice the difference in your legs when you're holding erg mode. Felt the same.
Okay, so am I able to wrangle your bike off this so I can do my Llama Lab test for another set of data? Maybe?
Can I round out the hour?
You can keep riding it as long as you want. Good job, thank you so much for being a part of that. We'll go through your data in just a moment.
Sure thing.
So thanks to Veronica for doing the unboxing, the first Llama lab test on the unit, and providing some commentary. For my ride, I'll echo what Veronica said there as well. The ride feel was very similar to that of the Tacx Neo 1. The noise, well, it's really not that loud. It's our drivetrains on both bikes you'd hear. So no problems at all with the sound there. It's definitely a quiet trainer. And everything else about the trainer itself, the responsiveness was very similar to that of the Neo 1. The ride of the unit is very stable, but also has a little bit of wiggle room. You'll see here on Veronica's bike, I asked her to do a bit of a wiggle on the unit. There's a bit of free play there. So again, something that people do like from the Neo 1 is now over onto the Neo 2. No Llama lab test would be complete without this website here, DC Rammaker's analysis tool, where we can compare multiple power meters, sometimes quite a lot of power meters together, with an overlay to see what's what, and see how accurate these things are or how they line up. First of all, we have Veronica's data here. On Veronica's bike, she was running the S-Works Quark Ant Plus only power meter. It's quite a few years old now. We've done a static weight calibration test on that, and it's a pretty damn good unit, that thing. I put the Favero Asioma Duo pedals on Veronica's bike, and of course, we had the Tacx Neo 2. Here's the data here. It's all looking pretty good. In the background, as Veronica was riding, I was getting quite excited seeing those numbers line up. Having someone else to do the Lama lab test was also really handy, but because I could see the data in real time, and I just told Veronica, just keep smooth, keep pedaling. It's all looking good. So here we are. Let's go through the list now. Standard 10-minute ride along before we stopped and re-zeroed and re-offset everything into the Lama lab test here of the steady state stuff, and you can see here it's looking pretty good. Now Veronica herself, she was off the bike for probably a week or so for work, so I did lower the requirements of the Lama lab test for her session. Mine comes next, we'll get into that in a moment. But the data's looking pretty good there, up against the Favero Asioma Duos, the Quark, and the Neo 2. So averages there of that, so 181, 179, 175, it's all looking pretty good. Into the sprint for Veronica, and look, as we expect, the Favero Asiomas jumped a little higher in the sprint because they are the pedals. Everything else lined up pretty good there. Into the overs and unders for Veronica, and again that was 250, 100, 250, 100, 300, 100, 300, 100, again a little bit lower than what I do. All looking pretty good. Bit of separation there in the 100 zones, but look, nothing to be too concerned about. Yeah, that's all looking pretty good. We're talking within 5 or 6 watts, maybe 10 watts there in those zones as Veronica recovered from those and erg mode tried to stabilize. So all is looking pretty good. And into the just riding along as Veronica continues to tick along and try and get the Tron bike with the elevation or the meters of climbing clocked up in Zwift there. All is looking pretty good. We've got average there of just riding like 94 watts, 96 watts, and 90 watts in the Neo itself. Given there's a lot of stop-start there, it's all looking pretty good. Onto the cadence for Veronica's session here. All looks pretty good from the cadence. There's no dropouts. It's all very, very consistent there between the Asioma Duos, the Quark, and the Tacx Neo. And finally, onto the overall stats. Even though we did do a zero offset after 10 minutes, everything looks pretty damn good as it is. So the averages from the 3 power meters, 134, 134, 129, and the max powers there, 818, 803, 811. All very, very happy days. Okay, now it's onto my Lama lab test and the data from that. And life is good. This is up against the Vector 3 pedals on the bike and the Tacx Neo 2. Again, standard Lama lab test, first 10 minutes, doing a few spin outs and things. I'll talk about that in a moment with the first 10 minutes of data there, but into the steady state stuff from what I performed. And you can see there, that makes me sleep well at night. Yes, there will be drivetrain losses. There will be a few things to factor in here and there. But when things line up that nicely, when I'm being told on the screen that I'm doing 200 watts, and that's what I'm actually doing on 2 different independent power meters, it's a brilliant thing. Nothing really to report there. Slight little jump in power here. I don't know what's going on there, but that's whether I was out of the saddle a little bit on the pedals, I'm not quite sure. Into the sprints, I did grabbed too much gear early on in the sprints and actually pulled out of the first sprint, so I was over geared. It was just too sloggy. I was in a massive gear, so I really couldn't get the max power that I needed. When I finally selected the right gear, as you can see, data's looking really, really good. It's within a few watts, literally a few. It's only 2. I'll show you in a sec, but that's looking super good. Into the overs and unders, and again, I think we'll just skip that. Looks good to me. Nothing to report there. It's exactly how erg mode operates. Kicks in a little harder, so you can see the few separations, well, there, if I was to really nitpick just for 1 second, but the rest of it is just lined up 1 for 1. And then just into the riding along, that's all happy days. And just to show you how close everything was, here's the mean max power graph. Absolutely perfect. And to the overall stats here, 184 versus 186, and the max powers, this absolutely nailed it. So 231 on the Tacx Neo, 229, so 2 watts difference between the 2 different power meters for the max sprint there. That is super good on the data side of things on the Tacx Neo 2. So my rating of the data coming out of the Neo 2 is definitely an 11 out of 10. It gets an extra point because there's no calibration required. Happy days. Okay, now on to the discussion of the Neo 2 new features. Did they make any difference? Is it worth going for the upgrade? Well, first of all, the cadence sensor works flawlessly. My previous rides on the Neo 1 indicated a cadence of 1 or 2 lower than the power meter because it was estimating the cadence from the power curve as I was putting power to the pedals. So the Neo 2 with its new cadence sensor, box ticked there. Next up, the Neo 1 issues. Have they been addressed? Because look, it's not all happy days with the Neo 1. Well, Does it still smell like fish after a hard sprint? Was the first question that came through. It's a characteristic of the Neo 1 that I've discussed quite a lot in a few live streams. What happens there is there's a lot of heat generated with a 1000 watt plus sprint, and things do get really, really hot. And there's a capacitor or there's something inside the Neo 1 that burns off or just lets out a bit of steam, I guess you'd call it, and smells like fish after a super hard sprint. After a while, that does go away. It was just a characteristic of the Neo 1, which is pretty funny. It doesn't impact the operation of the unit itself. It wasn't encountered with the Neo 2, so no, there's no virtual fish. There is, however, virtual tire slip that still exists. So that's probably the number one criticism of the Neo 1 that I've had. And a number one thing that people do pull up saying, this is happening, should this be occurring? Because, look, it's an edge case to get the virtual tire slip to actually happen. It still happens in the Neo 2. So I'm putting this down to the limitations of the virtual flywheel, where there's no mass, there's no big unit that physically stops you from really spinning up that wheel. And look, you've got to go out of your way to make this happen, but I think identifying that it is there leads to a better experience. If you know it's there and it happens, that's okay. And yes, you do have to go out of your way to do that. So in a nutshell, what happens with the virtual tire slip on simulated gradients of between 5 or 6+%, if you're in a very high spinning gear and you jump on the pedals really fast, you can accelerate that flywheel or the virtual flywheel uncharacteristically faster than what you should be able to. Unrealistically fast is probably the better word there. You can get the jump on the system before it starts clamping the watts down. So here's me spinning out the unit in a really high gear here. And then if I jump down the cassette a little more, it's a little harder to do. And look, when I'm on flat ground into a big gear, it's almost impossible to do because the torque just doesn't snap in that fast. So not a big issue here. Again, you have to line your ducks up and go out of your way to simulate this, but it does occur sometimes on steeper gradients and especially in the harder acceleration sprints. It didn't impact me at all on my maximal sprint, as you could see before I hit 1200 watts plus on the unit itself. No problems at all. It had more grunt than I could push into the pedals, but there is that edge case of tire slip that still exists with the Neo 2. Jumping quickly to the pricing here on screen, $13.99, $12.99, $11.99, $18.99 in your respective currency on screen here. Also factor in a cassette if you need one of those and a lock ring installation tool. Okay, almost time to wrap this one up for today, and if you're this far into the video, you're probably still asking yourself, Neo 1 or Neo 2, which one do you go? Well, I'll have a crack at answering that. Well, the Neo 1 has stood the test of time in the Llama Lab. It's my go-to trainer for Llama Lab tests against power meters. It's zero calibration, it's quiet, and it just works. The Neo 2 has all that going for it. Has a bit of wiggle as well, so you're not static in there. It works with or without power, so if you do forget to plug the thing in or you just don't have access to power points, you can still use the unit, no problems at all. The unit supports power, speed, cadence and control all in the one Bluetooth connectivity. So if you're looking at using Apple TV with its limitation of 2 Bluetooth devices, you can use a Tacx Neo for all that data and 1 heart rate monitor, and you've got the whole range of data you need for your indoor workouts. Road surface simulation is there from the Neo 1 to the Neo 2 as well. And I think road surface simulation is an untapped resource when it comes to fun indoors. Sure, road surface simulation gives us cobblestones and gives us planks and wooden bridges and things like that. You can feel you're riding over different surfaces, but there's an untapped thing I think is yet to come with this. Imagine having a back pocket full of bananas and being able to throw virtual bananas. You can have some real ones if you want, but virtual bananas, throw them to an opponent who's also on a Tacx Neo or Neo 2, and then having that implement them on ice so they could slip around and slip off the back. So the technology behind the Neo is still untapped. We could do a lot of fun stuff with that. So hopefully we'll see that come. Sure, there's some left-right power stuff that's mentioned, but it's still a little uncooked. It's still Tacx proprietary, effectively, being only compatible with the Tacx desktop software. I'm really hoping that in the future they'll open that up to a bit of a standard so you can see the true left-right on your head units and some cycling dynamics and also other software to support their peanut showing thing that only pops up in the Tacx desktop software. Okay, finally, my take on things. Neo 1 or Neo 2? Well, there's not really much in it, to be honest. Not at this point in time with the current firmwares. There may be things unlocked in the future. We did see road surface simulation get unlocked on the Neo about a year after release. So I don't know what's quite up their sleeve with the Neo 2 with those new features, but the only real differences that I can see are the killer accurate cadence sensor and the Thru-Axle adapter supplied in the box. Oh, and it also has a blue set of pants on, so it looks a little nicer as well. So there we are, Tacx Neo 2 Smart Trainer. Let us know your thoughts. It's been a good ride and good to see the evolution of this. Maybe not as many refinements as we would have liked to have seen, but it's still well ahead of its time. All right, thanks for watching. We'll be back with more soon.